Just did a video about Jonathan Kuminga and the report about the Warriors not re-signing him or not interested in re-signing him per The Athletic. It was uploaded by Bleacher Report and a few more sites. I wanted to talk about the dichotomy between playing for team and playing for self, especially as a young player, and specifically with Golden State situation. It's been very fascinating as someone who watches almost every Golden State game all the time. That is my favorite team to watch in the NBA. Stephen Kerr is my favorite player to watch in the NBA, and so I watch them a lot. I watch them in the G League, I watch them in the Summer League, I watch everything Golden State does just because I'm such a fan of how they move. I want to talk about three guys that kind of bring this point home: James Wiseman, Moses Moody, and Jonathan Kuminga. If we're talking about Wiseman and Moody, the Warriors are getting drafted to the Warriors was damn near the worst thing that could happen for their careers. Now you have two guys, high lottery picks, great high school players, very familiar with James Wiseman, amazing talent as a big guy, very, very skilled, has good shooting touch, and shoot jumpers from the mid-range pretty well. Even extend out to three a little bit, still developing that part of his game. Really good in low post, excellent hands. A pretty smart defender now. His reaction time is kind of slow since he's been in the NBA as far as like jumping for blocks, but I also think just the way he wants to play defense is not really being empowered because guys are kind of asking him to be something that he's not. He can block shots, he's athletic enough to do so, but he doesn't get off the ground really quickly on that end of the floor for some reason. You can get off the ground really quickly on the offensive end of the floor. That is Jonathan Wiseman, a guy that is just skilled, very skilled big. And then you have a guy like Moses Moody. Moses Moody is a pro's pro. I watched the Draymond Green podcast, and he always calls him the most professional player he's ever been around, which is a high compliment from a guy like Draymond Green who's been around. And you come in the league as a rookie, and Draymond Green's been around the Sean Livingstons and Andre Iguodala's and the most professional people, Jared Jackson, the most professional people, and he's saying this kid is the most professional player I've ever been around, as well as Kevon Looney. So that's the highest order of compliment. His game is also professional. He comes from the school with Cade in them, as they're known, Mount Verde, that highly touted team with Scotty Barnes and all of those guys. And his game was always super mature. Off-ball type of guy who can create his own shot, defends at a high level, super long arms, a smart player, very handsy, very good at like these strip steals. You have Moses Moody, whose game was made for the NBA. Jonathan Kuminga, athletically different, as Max Kellerman would always say. I always like that phrase that he used to say because it's a real point. It's one thing to be athletic. There's a lot of guys in the NBA who are athletic. It's a very athletic league, but some guys, even within the NBA, are just athletically different. You're talking about your Wembanyamas, your Zion Williamsons, your Russell Westbrooks, your Derrick Rose in his primes. These guys who are just like athletically, like, even though we're athletic, they're a different type of athletic where we can't even compete athletically with their type of athleticism. LeBron James in his prime. To me, Jonathan Kuminga fits that mold athletically. Jonathan Kuminga does things on the basketball court every day or every night, and you just sit there and say, like, there's nothing anyone can do to stop that. The way he gets off the ground with his explosion and power and height just is different than most people I can see in the NBA. They're not able to do that. He's so fast, so quick, so agile, again, so powerful, and jumps so high that it's just different. I wanted to talk about these three guys because I feel like a lot of people don't understand how much situation plays a role in careers. Because people are so quick to call players busts when they don't pan out. But they're not as quick to talk about the organizational things that people did or did not do to empower or inhibit the growth of their player. When you think about a guy like James Wiseman, for example, James Wiseman was never given an opportunity to really succeed. He never had consistent minutes ever. When you look at his production was good. Like James Wiseman, it's like per 36 was like 19 and 12. Every time he played in Golden State, he played well. He played well. He would have games where he showed a lot of offensive promise whenever he got any type of touches. Again, he would block shots here and there. And of course, he was adjusting to the NBA game. He only played like 2 games in college. So he's basically coming out of high school. So of course, it's a little different, but he was never able to even acclimate to the league because anytime he did anything, he was right back on the bench, never got a chance to shine. And then on offense, even though he has all of this skill, he's playing in a system that just wants him to set screens and roll as if he's JaVale McGee. And so he has to play on offense like he's JaVale McGee and play on defense in the things that he doesn't do naturally the best at right now and has to learn and is asked to do those, as well as a guy like JaVale McGee, who's been in the league for a long time. Very underrated player as well, by the way. That's a recipe for disaster. So I'm not given the chance to show the things that I can do well. And then the things I don't do that well, even if I try my hardest, as soon as I make a mistake, I'm not really playing, and I'm not even getting an opportunity to grow in those regards. So it becomes this situation where you get no chance. And that was his entire time in Golden State. He was never a consistent starter, never consistent minutes. In and out of the G League, he had a couple injuries here and there, but he never had a chance. He was never given a chance, and then he was just traded away. And like I talked about in the offseason videos, sometimes or many times in the NBA, you don't not get an opportunity just because of how well or not well you play or practice or anything like that. It's kind of how much stock is already invested in you. If we have invested a first round pick into you, your value commands a certain amount of opportunity. If we haven't invested that much into you, well, we don't have to give you a certain amount of opportunity. So he goes to Detroit, where he's playing backup minutes, playing pretty well there too. He doesn't have the most modern big NBA game. Again, a lot of post touches. He's a really good scorer out of the post, but guys don't really post that much anymore, aside from a few bigs in the NBA. Again, the ones who the coach has to give them the opportunity to do that. He's not the best shooter right now. And he's not just standing there jumping and trying to block a bunch of shots that when people are funneling to him, he's playing all hands-up defense and things like that. So he's not getting that much opportunity to do that. And it was all because of Golden State. If it wasn't a year where Steph Curry doesn't break his hand and Golden State ends up with the number 2 pick, and he's on a rebuilding team, well, maybe he's in a team where, okay, we can give you touches because you're our best thing going. Versus going to a team where I'm not even starting. And even when I play, the coach is on me about just passing the ball, moving the ball, and not doing anything that I like to do. Even a guy like Kelly Oubre, who's a good player, you can see him having success right now in Philly, talked about how basically that system didn't really fit him, even though he played really well for Golden State, in my opinion, when Kelly was there. He wasn't able to rock out the way he wanted to because of the way the offense is structured. And this is not a blame game type of thing, even though we could turn it into one, but it's not a blame game type of thing. Sometimes what's better for the team isn't better for the individual, and that's okay. The vice versa also exists. So what's better for the individual may not be better for the team. And both parties, should do what's best for them at the end of the day because it's a business. But I don't see as many public criticisms of these teams who are not even allowing these individuals to flourish, which essentially hurts the team, because if you don't allow someone to demonstrate their value, then their value doesn't increase or even hold steady. It goes down. They weren't able to get a lot for James Wiseman because they weren't able to show all of the things that he can do. And other teams around the league were like, okay, he looks pretty good, but, in moments, but you guys aren't even playing him. You guys aren't even playing him, and then he's not making too much impact when he is in there. The reason being because he's not able to show anything. And so you're only able to get Gary Payton back what you already traded for him. So again, you just ruined the value of a number 2 overall pick. A number 2 overall pick in a draft with Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball, I'm pretty sure. So and Tyrese Halliburton and all these guys. And even if you didn't get one of those guys, you could have traded something and got something. But you ended up, because Steve Kerr is committed and only wants to play a certain way, he depreciates the asset. And therefore, you have to waste that asset to get back a player you already had on your roster who was basically undrafted. I don't know if GP2 was undrafted or in the second round, but not a high-valued prospect. A gross mismanagement of assets there. Moses Moody. This is like a cautionary tale. I think like Moses Moody could be a cautionary tale because Moses Moody has done everything that every basketball fan, coach, player, whoever, dad, asks an athlete to do. He does everything right. Moses Moody shows up, from what I've heard. Again, I'm not in the locker room, but everyone says it. He's the perfect professional. So he does that. He doesn't complain about his minutes. He doesn't do it. He just shows up when he plays. He always plays well, especially as of late. First year, first couple years, a little bit up and down, which is expected. Again, Moses Moody's always been a really good defender, but he's not the most laterally quick person. He has really long arms and is a very handsy defender. And a lot of times when you're adjusting from a certain level to now NBA guys, I'm going from guarding a guy at VCU to guarding Kyrie Irving at the top of the key. That's a very different look. And it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means I need a little time to adjust to the speed and the quickness and the tendencies and etc. It's a different type of game with different rules. Struggled defensively early on, but you could see the flashes there. You just have to stay with it. You have to allow him to go through some of those growing pains so that he can develop, and that helps your team. So Moses Moody is a very good defensive player, wants to play defense, very good rebounder for his position. He gets so many clutch offensive rebounds, just being in the right place, knowing how to play. He just knows how to play. Very good shooter. Also added a mid-range jump shot to his game. He was more of a three-point shooter before in high school, college. He had some mid-range game too. But again, it's been looking good in the NBA. However, no matter how well he plays, no matter what he does, for some reason, he's just not allowed to have consistent minutes. And what do you do in that situation? Like if Moses Moody was in Detroit and he was able to play his game and show his value, he could be one of the better 3-and-D two guards in another universe, a young two guard that we have in the league. And if you're that, you're getting $200 million just off of potential. Versus you come in another world where I'm drafted to Golden State and I'm not even able to play consistently in the rotation. I'm getting DNPs all the time. And subsequently, my value is in the toilet. Even though people can see that I have potential, my value drops. And now my confidence drops, and now my playing style has to drop because now people are only bringing me in to be a three-point shooter. I no longer even have the leeway or the leash to go do the things that I would have been promised to do when I was the high draft pick, because now that's over with. And that's the difference between $200 million and $2 million. That's a huge difference. I know sometimes everyone looks at athletes as if they're not people because they make a certain level amount of money, but I mean, at the end of the day, this is their livelihood. And these kids have been working at this craft for their whole life and demonstrated to be exceptional at it. So exceptional to be in the NBA. So exceptional to not only be in the NBA, to be a high prospect in the NBA. And you're trying to now, you've been promised a moment, and you're trying to turn your family's life around. And because of some ping pong balls, I'm now in a situation where I can't do that because this coach doesn't want me to really do that. And so where do you balance doing what the team wants versus doing what's good for you and your family? Moses Moody has chosen the team at every step of the situation. And I believe he's paying the price for it. There is still a lot of time. He's a very young player. And this year, it doesn't look like the Warriors are making too many more moves, so it may open up some opportunities. Maybe if Kuminga gets traded, it opens up even more opportunities for him. Moses has basically been a martyr by being a good teammate. And that's what people claim they ask athletes to do. That's what coaches ask athletes to do. That's what fans say they want. Doesn't complain about anything. And so sometimes being selfish is better. Like if I'm Jalen Green, I'm getting it up. I don't care what the fans say if I shoot 30% from the field. Doesn't matter. I don't care what the fans say if I'm not playing winning basketball. Doesn't matter. That's the opposite. Right? So who would you rather be? Everyone encourages people to be Moses Moody, but Jalen Green's about to get $200-something million, and Moses Moody going to get a smaller than that, much smaller than that second contract. And so your team is better, but you're way less off. Now, if I already had a bunch of money and you asked me to do that, fine, I already made my money. But he hasn't even done that. I feel like I just want people to really evaluate what teams are doing to help players become successful. And stop just calling people busts and things like that because it doesn't work out. Because no matter what happens with Moses Moody, he's not a bust. James Wiseman's not a bust in my book. A bust is someone who comes in, is given opportunity, and just demonstrates with that opportunity they cannot play. Some guys that happens to. It's like, okay, we gave you opportunity. You just can't really play like that. It's fair. But many guys, they're never put in a position to succeed of no fault of their own. And that's kind of unfortunate, to say the least, because again, in my opinion, the way I look at it, my basketball outlook on things is I just want every player to be put in the best situation for them and their team, so that the NBA has the best pool of players and talent in roles that fit the players and talent, so that we get the best basketball. That's the way I look at it. So I'm always looking for teams to make a move. Like I wanted Lauri Markkanen to go to OKC. I want this guy to go here. I just want teams to have the best outlook for themselves and for the players around the pool of the NBA, so that we have the best product to watch. As a basketball fan, that's the only thing I care about more than anything. That's why I say I don't really care too much about the fandom thing, because I was rooting for Golden State when they lost to Cleveland, but I was excited to see LeBron and them, create history and come back from 3-1 and LeBron to get one for Cleveland. That was exciting too for me. I wasn't like, man, F LeBron because he beat Golden State. It was a beautiful moment. Of course, I wanted Golden State to win, but again, that's not really the way I look at it. I look at it more for the state of basketball. I'm a fan of the game, and so I just want us to, as fans, to kind of hold these teams more accountable and scrutinize these things more when you see a player not working out in the situation. When the situation doesn't work out, it has a long-lasting effect on the player. Every year, we're growing, developing, and reinventing ourselves just as humans. And it's the same thing on the basketball court. If I come in as a guy who likes to dribble a lot and shoot a lot, but I'm only asked to play defense for 3 straight years, and then as the 4th year, someone says, okay, now you can go back to dribbling and shooting. I haven't dribbled or shot in that way in the NBA for years now. Now you want me to be this guy? I'm not that guy anymore. Now I'm defensive guy. We see it all the time. Like, I'm the defensive guy. That's who I am now. Go watch Patrick Beverly's documentary growing up, how he reinvented himself at Arkansas. From going a scorer averaging 40 points in high school to I'm really locking into this defensive thing because I can, and that's who I am. And so now you see Patrick Beverly now, he's not the same offensive player he once was, but that's because he was conditioned to not be. Had to reinvent himself, and that's what happens to all of us. So when players are forced to reinvent themselves into a certain type of role, people still hold them accountable for the other role that they're not allowed to demonstrate. To me, that's just a backwards way of viewing the game, and I just wanted to add a little more nuance and insight into that. Fans didn't really bully Steve Kerr into really starting Kuminga. I'm saying that jokingly. I don't know if Steve Kerr really cared about the public outcry. I do think it had an effect to some degree, even if it was just a small degree. Of course, there's way more actual things that go into these coaching meetings than Twitter. But I'm just saying Kuminga's career could be drastically different if he was never finally awarded a well-deserved opportunity. I think it's going to end up working out for Kuminga, but those other two guys, we're still waiting and seeing. Wiseman has a good opportunity, I think, with Indiana he's with. As their backup big, I expect some good things out of him. Maybe he can turn it around for his career. Same thing with Moses Moody, but those guys, again, these are professionals. These are not guys that are getting in off-court stuff. They're not playing in a way that's not conducive to winning basketball. They're playing smart basketball. These are guys that just do, good young players that more teams could use. And it's just unfortunate sometimes that good young players aren't always rewarded for doing the right thing. And a lot of times they're actually penalized for it, which is why you see a lot of guys more adopting a different mentality. Because if you ask me, I know who I would rather be. If you ask me who I'd rather be between Jalen Green and Moses Moody, but that's all I have for today. I just kind of wanted to shed a little bit of light on that. I didn't want to get too deep into it just for the sake of time. But again, this is Akil with Hoop Symmetry, and I am out.